Hey everyone, this is Utsab. Today I will be talking about JavaScript. This will just be a brief intro to the topic, and we'll go into it in more depth after we cover Ruby and Rails. But yeah, for now we used it a little bit, so it's good to have a rough idea of what it can do and how to use it. We'll talk about a couple of big concepts here. First is the DOM, which stands for Document Object Model. And then we'll talk about just generally what role does JavaScript play with the web application. And finally, we'll talk about jQuery. Some concepts. So JavaScript lives on the front end, and at least traditionally it has. Let's talk about the front end versus the back end. The way I like to think about this is front end, the way I distinguish it is where does the code run? Front end runs in the browser. This is what the user plays around with, what the user faces. Backend runs in the server, and the server will have things like your database. It will aggregate all of your, all the information that you need to make your excuse me, to it'll basically aggregate all the information you need to make your business decisions and run your excuse me, and run your algorithms and whatnot. So for example, let's take an app like Uber. So the front end here is going to actually be your whatever is running on your mobile device, because that's what's facing the user. So things like updating, showing the display of how far away your driver is, that's going to happen on the front end. The back end is going to be the database. This might include all of the users of Uber total. It might have a database of like 1 million rows in it, or however many people use Uber. More importantly, though, the back end will have your business logic. So take what happens when you request an Uber. Somehow it has to find a driver near you and then connect you with that driver and give him directions and whatnot. That obviously that cannot take place on your view on the front end, because the front end isn't even aware of how many users there are signed in to Uber right now. That's where the back end is going to aggregate all the users that are signed on, and then it'll do its fancy algorithm to see who's near who, and then it'll send some kind of a assignment of a driver to a user to the front end. So we've talked about the front end languages, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are the big three languages that you're going to see over and over again on the front end. There's a lot less variety on the front end. It's always going to be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Back end, you'll see a lot more variety. There's, thousands of maybe not thousands, but there's lots of languages like Ruby, Python, PHP, and whatnot. So that's why one of the reasons we're covering HTML and CSS and JavaScript first is because they're just so universal. You absolutely have to know these. So let's talk about the DOM. The DOM stands for Document Object Model. It represents the HTML document as a tree. Let's take an example here. Let's say we'll just make a new thing here. Let's say I'll just delete all this stuff. Okay, we'll start with our boilerplate. Let's say we have our kind of a header to our page. And inside here, we might have a nav. And inside our navigation, we might have a unordered list. And then inside of our unordered list, we might have some list elements. And inside each of these, we might have something like a hyperlink, like home and about and blog. And then maybe down here, we'll have a main section. And this might have a div with some content. Let's see what this looks like. So, not a very glorious looking web page, but you'll see the makings of a navigation bar up there and then some content. What would the DOM be for this? So let me open up a whiteboard here. And excuse me, I'm just going to plug my laptop in. Okay. Oh, you could not see any of that. Fuck. Okay.